Here's Will Ospreay and he's got Marina Shafir. He's kidnapping her. I'm John Renton with my review of AEW Dynamite from the OVO. Yo, Hydro, OVO. Oh, Hydro from Glasgow, Scotland. On the way to Forbidden Door, they already taped Collision. I will not be reviewing that because I will be watching a special screening of Caught Stealing with Austin Butler and Zoe Kravitz. But before that, let's talk about this show. Also, I do want to say I will be doing my Forbidden Door predictions right after this because I don't care what else they add to the 9-match card. We'll probably end up being 13 matches. We'll probably have a bunch of stuff on the 0 hour. And I also want to say that my time of reviewing AEW regularly is going to be coming to an end by the end of the year. I'm going to reassess how much I'm going to review next year. I will say I'll be reviewing more of AEW than I will of WWE, but I'll get into that in another video at another time. So, the crowd was very raucous. I do love how the Hydro looks. And I'm not talking about water. I mean, even though water does look cool, it looks all pristine and everything. And ooh, it's all blue and everything. And what's that? It's a Stingray. Oh, Steve Irwin, no. So anyway, I did love how the arena looked. And the crowd was pretty goddamn raucous. They were up at the very start. Bryan Danielson came out to do commentary. That's good. Have Bryan Danielson do commentary more. I really hope he doesn't wrestle again. I don't think he needs to, but it is what it is. Will Ospreay comes out to a big pop, and he's emotional because he was told he was not medically cleared to be at Forbidden Door, so he decided to take life, by the balls and squeeze and everything and choke it. Ow, that hurts. I need those nuts to pee. Whole point is that's why he wanted the lights out, unsanctioned cage match. He's going to leave it all in the ring. Also, he talked about the UK scene. Talked about Scotland, talked about sausage rolls. Greg's sausage rolls. I've never been to the UK. I don't know if that's a thing. Those that are UK-centric or live there, are Greg's sausage rolls a big deal? So anyway, whatever happens at Forbidden Door is not AEW's fault. I strongly disagree, but we'll get to that at some point. He wants revenge by any means necessary, bruv. And here's Moxley. And a newsie. Shafir. And then basically we get a brawl. We just get a brawl with idiots, and then Tanahashi gradually makes his way to the ring. The man has no knees left. The man has not had any knees left since, I'd say, 2019. And that's being generous. And bless him. He's going to be hanging up the boots in the Dome early next year. About goddamn time. And this leads us right to our goddamn match. Literally, there are so many goddamn people out there. Tanahashi and Jet Speed, a.k.a. Jet Knight, and Speedball Mike Bailey, a.k.a. Fuck You Speedball. At least MVP and him were able to make a joke out of it. Took on Jon Moxley, Claudio, and the Idiot. The diseased pile of afterbirth that is Wheeler Yuta. I will stop knocking him when they stop featuring him in any kind of prominent position. Until, I don't know, he grows 6 inches and actually looks like a full-grown human being. He never will, though. At one point, yes, Ospreay did kidnap Shafir. He's kidnapping her. If you know what pay-per-view that's from, I love you guys. The crowd loved Tana, and they were into this, but Tana has absolutely no ability to run. He can't even jog. The man's going to need double knee replacement. I don't even know if that's going to help him. So later, Gabe killed Drilla Maloney, or Gabe Kid, Gabe Kid, Drilla Maloney, Clark Connors, and Robbie X, whoever the fuck that is. I have not kept up on enough of New Japan to know who they're at in the Bullet Club War Dogs. I am sick to death of Bullet Club. Part of the reason that I actually don't review New Japan anymore, besides the fact that people just were not watching the videos, was I was just so burned out on New Japan. I didn't review last year's G1. I didn't review this year's G1. But people like Gabe Kidd are a big reason. The Bullet Club, Husk, just that it needs to end. House of Torture needs to end. Gato needs to be fucking fired, preferably into the sun. But that being said, I will talk about that. I'm not going to talk about that in the Forbidden Door predictions, but I'm just so sick of just New Japan wasting a lot of the remaining goodwill that they have with the fans, which is not that much. There's very little chatter about New Japan. It's sad that they have some good talent. So, Will had a body bag. It wasn't Marina. because, somebody was actually moving and trying to do stuff and everything, and they weren't botching, so it wasn't Marina. High Fly Flow won it. Then the post-match attack, where the Bucks even attack Will and just literally, then the OPPs show up and all this stuff's going on. O'Reilly and Strong, by the way, show up and attack the Bucks, and they fought off. They just fought off. Darby was in the body bag, and they needed more people in this. This went on for fucking ever. I mean, this just would not goddamn end. Now the crowd was into it, and I'll give the Scotland fans credit. They are raucous. They are loud like very few fan bases can be. But had it not been for the hot crowd, this would have been just a basic AEW opening where they threw everything at the goddamn wall to see what stuck. I want AEW to succeed, but they got to learn to reel some things back, or they're just going to have the same base audience that they've always had. And a coffin drop on everyone. It looks like Darby almost hit the floor. Hopefully he's all right, but then again, he continues to do idiotic things, so I don't necessarily know if he really cares if he's all right. So there we are. That was about the first 30-35 minutes of the show. Shivani brings out Copeland and Christian Cage. Copeland tries to get Cage to play nice, and then says, well, sometimes you just need an asshole. It just so happens that he's my asshole. You guys used to be brothers. Gross. Christian basically doesn't feel he has to change a thing. He's perfect the way he is. And it's a reunion out of necessity. You help me with the Kip and Nick problem. I will help you with the FTR problem. And there we are. Kip Sabian shows up, and Shayna, Shayna Wayne, very, very nice woman. Super nice. Super sweet. My word with respect. Good grief. Good God, y'all. How dare you boo a mother, is kind of sad and everything. Nick Wayne's then suddenly on the screen, and he's in Everett. It's either Everett or Seattle. I know they're in the same garage that they were when, Swerve and AR Fox attacked. Remember when that happened? Remember when they had AR Fox turn heel for like a month? But he has a broken foot. Okay. I mean, I actually hope they're just playing it up and just maybe it's an injury and he has to get it addressed. It's a shame he can't be a Forbidden Door, as Nick is a bright young star for them. But he says, I'm always one step ahead. And suddenly there's a video with somebody being experimented on. Somebody with tattoos and a dinosaur mask. Oh my God, it's Kill Luchasaurus Switch. And he's back. Thankfully, he's healthy because he had a massive health scare with like lung capacity issues or whatever the fuck it was. I don't totally remember. I don't remember if it was pneumonia or what it was. He's back. He's healthy. I actually forgot about him. I was just hoping he was all right because we hadn't seen him in almost a year. But he's back. And Kip does his goofy distraction on Christian, just so Copeland can get chokeslam, and then Christian Cage, Lucha Kill Source Switch. Will they do this? Will they do it? Nope. Chokeslam, and there we go. So it's Kill Luchasaurus Switch in the place of Nick Wayne, and there you go. Kip will no doubt take the pin, which I think he should. Hate to say it. Nothing against Kip. He's been in that company since the very beginning. And I think him taking the fall in his, on his home turf, or whatever part of the UK he's from, makes the most sense. Again, Shayna, my word, Mark Briscoe is here to get revenge. MJF and the Gates of Agony and Ricochet are suddenly there, and it's hard for me to take Ricochet seriously on account of him being Ricochet and so bald. Speaking of bald, Stokely is with FTR. One member of them is also bald. They took on Brodito, Brody King, and Bandito in a tag tourney final match. Now, I will say that this match was a lot better than I expected it to be, but it also became obvious about halfway through that they were going to go to a time limit draw. Danielson is great on commentary, talking about the pinfalls and breakups and stuff like that and getting excited. Stokely had a pipe in his sling. The pipe was about as tall as he was, so I don't necessarily know how he hit it. Brody King was bleeding badly. FTR, they're a lot better as heels, I will say that. They're easy to dislike because of their presentation and how they present themselves in the ring, and they really are one of the best tag teams of their generation. I would love to have seen them against the Midnight Express. We went through 2 breaks. Brody King was still bleeding. He does go off at one point, but tags Bandito, who does a bunch of dives. He also did a frog splash for 2. And then we got a back superplex, and then we got the splash 1, 2, kick out, and Brian was losing his mind. 5-minute call. I forgot how to say her name, the ring announcer. Very pretty woman, and actually does have a lot of enthusiasm, so that really does help. In fact, strike that, reverse it, because her enthusiasm and her looks do not hurt. Thankfully, Justin Roberts wasn't there, and I know he was taken out last week, but this might be a way to just have Justin Roberts not be part of this company anymore, because he's been there since the beginning, and I don't need to see him anymore. I mean, I think he's earned enough healthy paychecks to go do something else, go work for TNA or something. There were some chops and some strikes. There was a spike pile driver on the goddamn apron, and then Bandito hit that Orihura moonsault or whatever the hell he calls it. And then goes for the 21 plex, but that got stopped. We got a shatter machine for 2. 1 minute left, and FTR gets a table out just because they want to do a cool spot for the close. This is the part I didn't like. I would have understood getting a table out in the last, few minutes if you wanted to do that. The problem is by the time they got out with the minute, you knew what they were going to do. We got after the shatter machine, we got, some nice bumps and everything, but they were rushing it, and Cash went through the table, and then the bell rang, and it was a draw. Then the Syndicate show up, and, oh, by the way, Tony Khan instantly in the ring announcer's ear telling her, hey, I'm making it a 3-way. Thanks, guys. And that's it. And the Syndicate show up and all that. And Hangman shows up to a pop and then says, hey, I'm not going to bother calling MJF out because he can't confront his problems, but maybe he will actually, come out and get the piss beat out of him, but I know he won't. Oh, and by the way, Shivani then hears, hey, MJF says that you need to watch the screen, and if you leave the ring, something bad's going to happen. I think the bad thing's already been happening with this particular feud, but whatever. Mark Briscoe has been beaten up by, look, I believe Bishop Khan could do it. I believe Toa Leona could do it. I do not believe for a second that Ricochet could whip anybody, like anybody on this roster in a goddamn fight. And MJF's there, and they got Briscoe tied up in the chair, and if MJF doesn't get his demands met, he's going to set him on fire. This is the second kidnapping that they have done on this program. This is where I talk about Tony Khan needing to reel this shit back. There's repetitive stuff, and WWE's is guilty of a lot of repetitive shit. The 3-ways and all the multiple person matches and the 20-minute opening promos leading to a tag match later. A lot of tropes that need to end. You don't need to do the same goddamn thing. And I don't care if, there was one kidnapping angle, but somebody was in a body bag and they did the switcheroo and somebody's going to get set on fire. It's still a kidnapping thing and it's still overdone. But MJF basically says, I want to make sure that my demands are met. The title can change via disqualification or countout, and I don't have to use my contract. Okay. Hangman agrees. There you are. I know. Well, you can remain a hero, Hangman. Then backstage, Hangman hits Ricochet with a chair. I felt bad for the chair making contact with that bald idiot. And then he lays out some security and leaves. Toni Storm gets a big pop. Persephone is watching on, looking like she could lift the goddamn world right there. And there's that Bozilla, I believe is her name, the one from Stardom that's going to be part of this 4-way. But she wasn't there. She just talked about in a recent Stardom clip, and you could probably figure out why I have a particular affection for her. And I think actually she shows potential. I've seen some clips of stuff she's done. She has a very nice presence, and she actually can hit some good power stuff. And it doesn't hurt that she's way, way taller than most of the goddamn roster, the Stardom roster. So we have Toni Storm and Alex Windsor against Mercedes and Athena. They gave them the main event. They gave them a while. They gave them a good while. And it was what it was. Get in my belly is what Tony yelled at one point because we are referencing movies that happened a lifetime ago. I was quite a bit younger when the third Austin Powers movie came out. The crowd was into it. Athena did a dive and slammed her skull right into the ring announcer's table. The commentary table. I hope she's okay. Mercedes, then Mercedes and Athena were kind of having a bit of an issue. Athena did lay out Tony on the steps, and Tony was selling her neck for the rest of it. Tony's fine because not only was the spot done safely, but Athena is a safe worker, so there you are. Mercedes wasn't a legal person. She was tapping out while this sharpshooter was going on, and Athena hit what is called the O-face, but I prefer the Eclipse because the O-face just sounds wrong. And there you go. So Athena gets the victory, pinning Alex Windsor, and Mercedes confronts Persephone, and Persephone shoves her. There is a certain viewer watching this right now that probably would love to be that close to Persephone, but you stop that. You stop that right now. So yeah, that is it for the great crowd, typical Dynamite build to pay-per-view. So now to get on to the pay-per-view prediction. So let me know your thoughts in the comments. Like, share, subscribe, Twitter, Letterboxd, Blue Sky handles in the description. I'm John Ritland, and until we Glasgow OVO again, happy trails to you.